So soil erosion is one of the important factors that is seen especially during the rainy seasons, wherein there is 3 levels of biodiversity: genetic diversity, species diversity and ecosystem diversity. How to manage disasters such as floods, earthquakes, cyclones and also the landslide. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on the introductory class for B.B.A second semester Environmental Studies as per the NEP syllabus. I am Dr. Divya, Environmental Studies Faculty, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, Mysore. So in today's session, let us discuss about the syllabus and about the question paper, that is what is the pattern of question paper for the final examination. So the syllabus is actually divided into 8 units. So the first unit in the syllabus is Introduction to Environmental Studies, and the unit 2 wherein we'll study about the ecosystem. The unit 3 which talks about the natural resources, that is the renewable and the non-renewable resources, and the 4th unit is about biodiversity and its conservation. The 5th unit is about environmental pollution. The unit 6 is of environmental policies and practices. Unit 7 deals with human communities and the environment, and the 8th unit is completely of field work, which is a unit that you will love, as it is a unit wherein you can do small project work, go visit different places and collect information related to environmental studies. So what exactly is there, or what are the topics that are there in these 7 units along with the 8th unit we shall look into. So talking about the first unit, which is Introduction to Environmental Studies. So under this, first you learn about the introduction to the environment, which is a very small unit wherein you learn the basics of environmental studies, where and all environmental studies is of use, all that you shall look into. So here we will first study about the multidisciplinary nature of environmental studies. So in what all fields environmental studies is there, because we know that nowadays even engineering subject also has EVS in it, right? Because that is also important. Whenever you need to go in for a construction or something, knowing the environment, knowing the ecology of that particular area is very, very important. And if you have to know that, then knowing about environmental studies or studying about it is very, very important. So what are the different fields wherein environmental studies is one of the subject in the syllabus we shall look into by studying about the multidisciplinary nature of environmental studies. And next is we shall study about the components of the environment. So the environment is divided mainly into 4 main components. The first component being the atmosphere, the second one the hydrosphere, that is made up of the water, then comes the lithosphere and then the biosphere. So what exactly are these 4 components? What is present in these 4 components and why are these components important? All that we shall study under this particular topic, that is components of the environment. Next we will study about the scope and importance of environment, because knowing this is very, very important for your future if you want to take up environmental studies as one of your subjects. So what is the scope? What you can do if you study environmental studies? So we will study about the scope and its importance, then we will study about the concept of sustainability and the sustainable development. So all these comes under the unit 1, that is Introduction to Environmental Studies. Moving on to unit 2, that is ecosystem. So this is one of the common chapters that you would have studied right from your high school, right? From your primary classes itself you would have studied this about the ecosystem. So again here we shall just brush up what is an ecosystem and we shall learn about the structure and the function of the ecosystem. So structure and the function of the ecosystem, like there is the structure of the ecosystem depends on a method called as stratification. So that we shall study under this, and we shall study about the energy flow in an ecosystem. So that is how an energy flows from one trophic level to the other trophic level in the food chain, that we shall study about this. It's a very interesting chapter, and we shall study about the food chain, the food web. There is a difference between the food chain and food web, which we will understand under this particular topic or the unit, and we'll study about the ecological succession. This is one of the very interesting topic, ecological succession, because every now and then when you're traveling from one place to another, you get to witness this ecological succession. So it is very interesting. And also we shall study some case study, learn about some case studies. Case studies are quite interesting, and why actually they put case studies in environmental studies is because we always get inspired by other people. We have to take inspiration, good inspiration from other people, right? When an example is put about environment, say for example a person who has done something to contribute towards the environment. So when such case studies are put in the textbook, even it will create an enthusiasm in us, or it will evoke an interest in us to do something to the environment. So keeping that in mind, the educators have actually put this particular topic wherein they have put case studies regarding the forest ecosystem, the grassland ecosystem, the desert ecosystem, case studies on the aquatic ecosystem such as the ponds, streams, lakes, rivers, oceans, estuaries, etc. So these are all quite interesting topic under unit 2 of the ecosystem. So next, moving on to unit 3, wherein we'll study about the natural resources. Even this is also one of the quite familiar topics, because right from our primary classes we have been learning about the renewable and non-renewable resources, because it is very important for each person living on this planet to understand how much we have to use a particular thing. And when we use something from nature, it is our duty to give back something to the nature. So all that will be taught in this particular unit, that is natural resources, wherein we learn about the renewable and non-renewable resources. Under this, we will learn about the land resources and the land use change. That is earlier how the land was. You might have heard your parents saying while traveling, oh, this place looked very different during my childhood. See now how it has developed, how urbanized it has become, right? So that is how fast the land is changing, and in what way, and what this land use change is leading into a lot of destructions, causing a havoc in the human life. All that we shall study under this particular topic of land use change. And we shall study about land degradation, how we, because of our greed, how we are decreasing the, or how we are changing the fertility of the land because of various constructions and all that to improve the infrastructure, and what it is leading into. And we all know about the example of Chennai, wherein because of the land degradation, that is the reason why it led to the floods that had hit Chennai few years back, right? So that is one of the reasons. So all that we shall study under land degradation, and we shall study about soil erosion. So soil erosion is one of the important factors that is seen especially during the rainy seasons. The soil erosion causes a lot of problems because it has the capability to make a fertile land unfertile. So that we will study in this particular topic. And because of soil erosion, how desertification will occur, we shall look into. So next we'll study about deforestation. So deforestation is nothing but cutting of trees, and what are the different causes of deforestation, and because of this deforestation what impacts it causes. And deforestation has several impacts due to mining. Deforestation is mainly done because of mining purpose. So if you go towards Kudremukh side and all that, you can see big hills which are completely without trees, right? Because they have cut down all the trees, especially for mining purpose. So that is how for mining, how deforestation is increasing because of mining, because of the construction of dams or building of dams, and what effects it has on the environment, and what effects it has on the forest, what effects they have on the biodiversity, and also they affect the tribal population because say for example dams, whenever they need to construct a dam, those people living in that particular forest area needs to be evacuated, and that will cause a lot of ups and downs in the tribal community. So what are those ups and downs that are seen in the tribal community because of this particular deforestation? We shall understand about that in this particular topic. So next, talking about the water in this particular unit, how water is useful for us and how we are over exploiting the surface and the groundwater. So surface and groundwater has been over exploited by a number of factors. What are those? We shall look into. And how the water scarcity is occurring because of droughts. Again, droughts, one of the main reason for droughts is deforestation. So that is why in environmental studies, each of the topic is interconnected to one another here. So how the overuse of water, exploitation of water has resulted, or the deforestation has resulted in droughts, and because of this drought condition or because of the scarcity of water, there is conflicts over water, right? Both within a country there is conflict over water, and also in international level also, that is international and interstate level, there is conflict or fight for water, right? So every now and then we read in the newspapers, and when we watch news we hear of the conflicts for water. The best example is the conflict for Kaveri water between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. So about all that, taking examples, we shall study under this particular topic. And how the earth is getting heated because of deforestation, the earth also is getting heated. So how the heating of the earth is occurring, and we shall study about the circulation of air, we shall study about the air mass formation, and we shall study about the precipitation, that is the rainfall. And we shall study about the energy resources, wherein under energy resources, here we will study about the renewable. The renewable means which can be renewed, you can replenish it back. And we shall study about the non-renewable energy sources, which once lost you can never get it back. They are the non-renewable energy sources such as the petroleum, coal and all that are non-renewable. And instead of using this non-renewable energy sources, what alternate we can follow? So instead of petrol we can go in for the CNG, compressed natural gas, like that we can, or instead of using the electricity which is a non-renewable resource, which we can go in for using the solar radiation which is a renewable resource. So what are the different strategies or alternates that we can follow in order to, or what are the different alternates of energy resources or energy sources that we can use instead of depending on the non-renewable energy sources, and what is the growing energy needs of the people, and all that we shall study by taking the examples of various case studies under this. So we shall study about all these under unit 3, that is natural resources, renewable and non-renewable resources. Next, moving on to unit 4, that is biodiversity and conservation. Biodiversity and conservation, we shall study about the levels of biodiversity or the levels of biological diversity, wherein there is 3 levels of biodiversity: genetic diversity, species diversity and ecosystem diversity. So about this we shall study, and we shall study about the biogeography zones of India. There are various biogeography zones such as the Trans-Himalayas, the Andaman zone. So there are various zones India is actually divided into. So all those zones we shall study under this, and we shall study about the biodiversity pattern. So we have altitudinal pattern, latitudinal pattern. So different patterns of biodiversity we shall look into under this, and we shall study about the global biodiversity hotspots. So even in India recently several new hotspots have been declared. So likewise throughout the world there are global biodiversity hotspots which are having some of the endangered animals. So what are those global biodiversity hotspots? We shall study under this particular topic, and we shall study about India as a mega biodiversity nation. Though India's land area is very small when compared to most of the countries, but we are rich in biodiversity. So therefore we shall study India as a mega biodiversity nation, and we shall study what are the different endangered and endemic species of India. So endangered means those species which are at the verge of extinction. They are called as the endangered species. Endemic species means those which are present only in a particular country but nowhere else in the world. Say for example, I'll take the example of neem. Neem is a endemic species. It is endemic to India because other than India, nowhere else in the world you can find neem. Likewise, sandalwood also. Sandalwood is endemic to India, especially the southern part of Karnataka, where nowhere else you will find sandalwood, right? So like that, different endemic species of India which we do not know, which are very interesting, we shall study under this particular unit. And next we'll study about the threats to biodiversity. So threats to biodiversity, we human beings alone are a big threat to the biodiversity, right? So what are the major threats to biodiversity which is leading to the loss of the habitat and which is leading to poaching of wildlife, and because of the constant interaction between the wildlife and between the human beings, it is leading to lot of man-wildlife conflicts, wherein we have studied how the leopards have entered into the villages and killed the cattle, how the elephants have trampled and destroyed a lot of agricultural fields. All that is nothing but man-wildlife conflicts. Of course, we are the ones who are responsible for this, and how we are responsible we shall study in this particular topic. And we shall study about biological invasion. So biological invasions is nothing but I can take the example of, they are called as the alien species. So here we can study taking the example of Parthenium. Parthenium was not a plant that was there in India. It actually came from outside, somewhere else from the other country of the world during the transport of wheat. Nowadays, there is no place in India where you do not find Parthenium. Such a situation has arose, right? So that we will study under biological invasion, wherein various examples are there about biological invasions which are very interesting. We shall study about that in this. Next, which we shall study one of the important topic, conservation of biodiversity, because for us to lead a healthy and happy life, it is our duty to conserve the biodiversity. If we conserve the biodiversity, then everything in the country will be fine. So, what are the different in situ and ex situ conservation strategies that we can follow under biodiversity? We shall study under conservation of biodiversity here. In situ means conserving the biodiversity there itself. Where it is, there itself you will conserve the biodiversity. Ex situ means you will bring it to somewhere. Say for example, tiger. Tiger, ex situ conservation means you are bringing it to the zoo or you are bringing it to a captive center and trying to conserve it. Conserving tiger in situ means in its area, forest area itself, you are trying to conserve it. So those two conservation methods we shall study under this particular topic. And we shall study about ecosystem and biodiversity services. Ecosystem and biodiversity is actually giving us a lot of services in the form of medicine, food, in the form of fossil fuels, etc., in the form of raw materials for industries, etc., right? So what are those services provided by them, which are ecological, economic, social, ethical, aesthetic and informational value? We shall study under ecosystem, biodiversity and services. So next, moving on to unit 5, that is environmental pollution. So under environmental pollution, let's study about the different types of environmental pollution, such as we have air pollution, there is water pollution, soil pollution, chemical pollution, noise pollution. All these different types of environmental pollutions we shall study, and we shall study about the causes. What are the factors that are causing these environmental pollution, and what happens if such environmental pollution occurs? The best example we can talk of is the air pollution that is there in Delhi, which is prevalent. Delhi is one of the most polluted cities in the world, one among the most polluted cities in the world. What actually caused these pollutions, all that we shall study under this particular topic of environmental pollution, and we shall study about the different control measures, what we can do, what alternate we can follow to control these environmental pollutions, and also we shall study about the nuclear hazards. To use nuclear weapons, there is a lot of formalities that we need to follow. Otherwise, what would have happened? Within a span of time, the whole mankind would have got perished from this earth, right? Because these nuclear weapons or nuclear hazards will remain in the environment for thousands to thousands of years. The best example that we can take of is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It is said that even today the children that are born there are having some of the disabilities because of the nuclear hazard, that nuclear bombing that took place there. So that is why it is very important for us to understand, for each of the population to understand the hazards or the harmful effects of nuclear activity and what risks it poses on the human health. And we shall study about the solid waste management, because this is also very important. Of course, to some extent the microbes can decompose these wastes, but apart from that, what can we do to dispose the waste in a proper manner? Otherwise, if it is not disposed in a proper manner, especially the solid and the electronic waste, then the whole country will become a heap of waste, right? So that is why it is important for us to know how to manage the solid waste, and that is what are the different control measures of urban and industrial waste we shall study under this. Industrial waste, what they do, they easily dump it into the waters, right? But that leads to a lot of problems to the aquatic animals, and also it leads to a problem to the people consuming those aquatic animals. So therefore, proper solid waste management is very, very important. And we shall also study about some of the case studies that are there for pollution. So wherever there is case studies, no, topic is actually quite interesting to learn. So this is about unit 5. And unit 6, we shall study about environmental policies and practices. So under environmental policies and practices, what are the different policies that has been put forward? Framing rules is very, very important, because none of the person, even I am talking here, even I don't follow anything if there is no rule put. That is true, right? Will we in ourselves incur a particular knowledge saying that no, I should not throw waste here, no, I should not pollute my particular surrounding, I should not do this, I should not do that? Will it come to our mind? No, nowhere in the world people will have that thinking, right? So that is why framing policies, rules and regulation is very, very important. So what are the different policies, rules and regulations that are framed, that have been incorporated in the respective countries? We shall study here, wherein we shall study about the climate change, the global warming, the ozone layer depletion. They have put a ban on CFC. If the government had not put a ban on CFC, what would have happened to our ozone layer? We would have happily used all the products containing CFC, right? That is chlorofluorocarbon. And we would have polluted and we would have cut trees to such an extent wherein it would have led to climate change, and therefore it would have led to global warming, and we would have made or improved industrialization to such an extent that we would have completely spoiled the environment. So therefore, bringing various rules and regulations and policies and practices is very, very important. That is what we'll study under this particular topic, and we'll study about the acid rain, we'll study about the impacts of all these on the human communities and as well as on the agriculture. And next, moving on, we'll study about the next topic, that is environmental laws. Under this, we shall study about the Environmental Protection Act. We'll study about the Air Act, which is nothing but the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act. We shall study about the Water Act, the Wildlife Protection Act, the Forest Conservation Act, the international agreements, the Montreal and Kyoto protocols, and the conservation on biological diversity, and we shall also study about the Chemical Weapons Convention. So, all these are the policies that has been framed. It's very simple. In a school or in a college, there are certain rules and regulations made. What would have happened if rules and regulations were not there? That would not be a school. A school would never remain disciplined, nor the students would learn anything properly, right? So that is why certain rules and regulations are set. Likewise, in order to protect the environment as a whole, various acts and policies have been put forward. So the whole thing we will study under this particular unit, and we shall study about the nature reserves, the tribal population and the rights of the tribes, and we shall study about the human wildlife conflict in the Indian context. So taking some case studies about human wildlife conflicts in India and what are the reasons behind that, all that we shall study under unit 6. Next, moving on to unit 7. So under unit 7 we shall study about human communities and the environment. What are our goals towards the environment? All that we shall study. So we shall study about the human population and growth. Under that, because of the growing human population, what impacts it is causing on the environment, and because of the growing human population and because of this it is causing an impact on the environment, and this in turn is leading to various problems in the human health and welfare. All that we shall study under this, and we shall study about carbon footprint. Carbon footprint is one of the interesting topic. We shall study about it because we never understand how we are adding waste to the environment. A small packet, say for example, we use milk packets at home, right? We cut that milk packet, the Tetra Pak or whatever packets are there, we cut a small bit of it. But that bit, nobody cares what might happen to that bit, right? Because that bit of plastic that we cut cannot be recycled, and therefore it will end up in some dumps, or it will end up in some drainage, some water sources and all that, leading to environmental pollution and leading to a lot of hazardous situations. So that is how, not just this, there are a lot of small things which we are neglecting, which is ultimately leading to carbon footprint. So that we shall study under this particular topic. So there is a particular calculation wherein we can calculate how much we are contributing to the carbon footprint. Everyday use, the things that we use every day, how it is, be it from the cosmetics, be it from the simple toothpaste that you use in the morning, because the toothpaste you spit it out, it will move to the drain, from the drain all that will be collected and it will enter into a water body. There it is causing a problem in that water body, polluting. So every small thing we use every day is leading to carbon footprint. So it is a very interesting topic that we will study under this, and we shall study about the resettlement and rehabilitation of project affected persons, that is some case studies on them. So say for example, the construction of the dam. The construction of the dam is good in some ways because it provides water for agriculture, therefore improving the food security of the country. But on the other hand, it will cause a lot of problem to people who are living in the area surrounding the dam, because they will have to be rehabilitated, and when they go in for rehabilitation, what all problems they tend to face there, all that we shall study under this particular topic of resettlement and rehabilitation. And we shall study about disaster management, how to manage disasters such as floods, earthquakes, cyclones and also the landslide. There are various disaster management strategies. Of course, in our country, there is a different course that is there for disaster management, but in some of the countries, right from the beginning itself, all these disaster management strategies are taught to the students. But we have a separate course here, or a topic under EVS only under that is but here we have this topic only as a separate subject, which you can opt as you go for your higher studies, or you can study it under EVS itself. Next we shall study about environmental movements. So these environmental movements, it's very interesting because when you read this, even even we will feel like that we need to do something to the environment. So there are various movements that were there, the Chipko movement, the Silent Valley movement, and the movements which was held by the Bishnois of Rajasthan. So all these we shall study under this, and we shall study about the environmental ethics. So every culture has its own ethics, every religion has its own ethics. Likewise, every religion and culture has its own ethics or norms towards the environment protection. So what are those? That is, what is the role of Indian and other religions and cultures in the environmental conservation? Because you open a Bible, you open a Quran, or you open a Bhagavad Gita, whichever holy book you read, there will be some phrases which will be about protecting the environment. So each of the religion and culture throughout the world has its own ideologies, which they have put it in the form of writings in their holy books. What are those? We shall study under this particular topic. And we shall study about environmental communications and public awareness, and we shall study about taking certain case studies. The best example is the compressed natural gas vehicles in Delhi. Using compressed natural gas vehicles is not that easy, but still Delhi, in order to curb its air pollution, how it contributed itself towards the use of compressed natural gas in its public transport vehicles, all that we shall study under this particular topic. Next, moving on to Unit 8. Unit 8 is completely your topic, because it is you who will be doing the field work, collecting information and subject and submitting it to the respective faculty. So here under Unit 8 of field work, you will have to visit an area in order to document environmental assets. So you will visit an area, say for example a particular village, and what are the environmental assets there? Maybe a park. Even a park is also environmental assets, right? Because a park is one wherein you'll have lots of plants and trees there. So that is also an environmental asset. So you'll be noting down what are the different environmental assets there. You go to a rural area, what are the major environmental assets that are there? You go to a urbanized area, what are the different environmental assets that are there? All that you will study, and you will note about the number of rivers that are flowing in that particular area, the forest in that particular area, the flora, that is the plant species in that area, and the fauna, that is the animal species in that particular area. There is nothing you have to do, just go and visit and make a note of the environmental assets there, and write it down in the form of a neat project and bring it back. So that is about the field work. Next is one more field work, visit to a local polluted site. So polluted sites which you can find in urban areas, in rural areas, that is in villages, and in industrial areas, and in agricultural areas. Agricultural areas also you can find the polluted site, wherein they would have just dumped the remaining fertilizer bags and all that, just like that. And even there is a polluted site because some of the agricultural fields, after growing the crop, they go in for burning the agricultural fields. So that it is called as stubble burning. So stubble burning will be done. So all that leads to pollution. So all that you have to make a note of it in these different areas, because in urban areas pollution is more, rural areas it is less. When you go towards the industrial areas, pollution, never think of it, it is more, because industries wherever they want, they'll just dump the waste materials, and agricultural fields also the pollution is to some extent more. So all that you have to visit and note about it. And next is studying the common plants, insects, birds, and the basic principles of its identification. So some of the common plants, there are various taxonomy rules that you have to follow to identify all these, and based on the taxonomy, how you can identify all these plants and insects. You can plants, insects, birds. Birds, for example, you can identify based on the way they chirp, right, based on the sound that they produce. So you can identify them. And insects also based on their the structure of the wings, the coloration of the wings, the number of wings they're made up of. So there are various factors how you can identify them. And plants, you can identify them based on the flower, based on the shape of the leaf, based on even the margins of the leaf, how it is, based on that, and based on whether it is a tree, shrub or whatever, and what is the position of the leaf in the plant. So there are various things under taxonomy which you can use to commonly identify a plant or an insect, a bird, and all that you have to do here. And next is to study of simple ecosystem, wherein you need to study a simple pond ecosystem, river ecosystem, the Delhi ridge, etc. So Delhi, whatever, whichever is possible, you can just choose here. So simple ecosystem, pond ecosystem, again there also you will find different layers in a pond ecosystem. So the topmost layer will be occupied by some of the organism, next layer by some organism, like that different layers will be there. So you have to study the simple ecosystem of these. So these are the 4 field works that they have given in Unit 8, and it is a good scoring topic here, because entirely it will be done by the students itself. Next, they have given in your syllabus some of the suggested readings, that is books apart from this also you can look into, but these are some books which are prescribed by the educators, wherein most of the topics you can find if you refer these books. So what are those books? We have Silent Spring. So there is a topic wherein you had to study about the Silent Spring. That was a movement to protect the environment, which was called as Silent Spring. So if you need to study about or make notes out of it, you can refer this particular book. Likewise, there are a lot of books depending on the different topics. Like if you need to study the ecological history of India, you have a particular book here, and you have books for global ethics and environment that was published by the London publications. Then you have to study about the water crisis. So there also, it's not that in one book you will get the entire topic, you will have to refer a number of books, because the topic gets distributed based on how the author has written the book. So based on what the heading of the book is. For example, you need to search for some religious ethics towards environment. If you read Silent Spring, you won't get it. So likewise, depending on what the topic is, you have to choose the book from this particular suggested readings. Or also apart from this, apart from these books that I have put here, like you have Principles of Conservation of Biology, that is there here, and we have that is Threats from India's Himalaya Dams, like how dams has led to the rehabilitation of people. That one topic was there. To study that, you can just go through this particular book, and it's actually it's not a book, but it is a paper, research paper. So I've just put the website here. If you open this website, you can get this research paper. So you can not only you have to depend on books, you can read various research papers related to environmental studies for your notes preparation and for your final exam studies as well. And there is a book by Macaulay, that is Rivers No More. Means rivers no more, because of construction of dams, the routes of the river has been changed, and because of the pollution of the rivers, a lot of problems has occurred. All that you have, I've put a website here wherein you will get this particular, it's a research article actually, you will get it in this particular website. So you can just go through it. And there is something new under the sun, and in environmental history of the 20th century. So 20th century, it is a recent publication, obviously, that is in 2000 it was published. So recent advancements in the field of environmental studies, you will get it in this particular book. And you have fundamentals of ecology, the basic fundamentals of ecology, you can study from this particular book. Likewise, there are a lot of books that they have mentioned here. So environmental and pollution science, to study, you had a topic wherein you had to study about air pollution, water pollution, chemical pollution, noise pollution. So for that you can refer this particular book from academic press. And also about wastewater treatment. If you remember, management of solid waste, there was a topic, right, in the syllabus. So maybe you will get some information about that from this particular book. So as you can see here, there are about 20 books, and out of which some research journals have also been included, and there are certain websites also which are available. You can just click on these websites and you can get information related to. If you need to read about threatened species, or endangered and endemic species in India, then you need to visit a website. So if you visit a website only, you can get information, because in books and all, recent information will not be available. So if you need a recent information, then you will have to visit a particular website for that. So there are some web addresses that have been given here, so you can look into. Apart from that, we shall learn about the scheme of question paper, that is the model of the question paper, how exactly the question paper looks like. So the time given for writing the exam is 1 hour 30 minutes, 1.5 hours, because it carries a marks of just 30 marks. So your environmental studies is just for 30 marks, and they usually ask straightforward simple questions itself, which once you read, you can write it on your own, or it is very easy, because environmental studies is always that if you attend classes and if you listen to the lecture, you can write your own answers. So it is very easy actually to score, and moreover it's just for 30 marks. So it is divided into 3 mains, wherein in the first main there will be 10 questions given, which is 1 mark question. So out of that you need to write any 8. So out of the 10, any 8, it will fetch you 8 marks. So this is the 1 mark question that is there. Next, second one is answer any 3 of the following. So 4 questions are given. Out of the 4, so you need to answer any 3. So out of 4, any 3, and it carries 4 marks. So each question carries 4 marks. So therefore 12 marks from this. And the third one, it is answer any one of the following. So 2 questions will be given. Out of the 2, any one you will have to answer, and it is for 10 mark. So 1 question for 10 marks. So therefore totally 10 plus 12 plus 8, the whole exam is just for 30 marks with 1.5 hour time limit. So the maximum number of relevant points you write, the maximum marks it will fetch you. So this is about the scheme of the question paper, the pattern of the question paper, how it will come for the final exam. So this was about the introductory class, wherein we learnt about the syllabus, what are the different topics under this syllabus. So maybe by looking into the topics, it might have inculcated an interest in you to study environmental studies. So with this, we also learnt what was the scheme of the question paper, because knowing the scheme is very important. It will be helpful for you to study. So how you have to study will depend on the scheme of the question paper. So all that we understood. So this was about this particular session. So we shall meet again in the coming session, wherein we'll start discussing the chapters under each unit. So under different sessions, we'll start learning the chapters. So we shall meet again in the coming sessions by taking a new chapter. Thank you.